Well, to kickstart this conversation, we'll be joined by our guest virtually, Patriot Desmond or Arewa Fowobi, who joins us to discuss the issues in the news. Patriot Desmond, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bito. Good to be with you this morning to discuss some of the issues that makes the round to our national daily.
Now, let's start at the very top with the non-implementation of the agreed 70,000 minimum wage, particularly at the third tier of governments. The local government workers and teachers in over 20 states are lamenting a non-payment of 70,000 naira. The debate has been about what it takes to open dedicated direct accounts with the Central Bank of Nigeria. What does this make of the conversation on local government autonomy?
Well, one of the major challenge that we have always encountered with government principles and government directives and actions is non-compliance and implementation. It is a major deal in the governance of Nigeria as a system. It is long overdue. It is something that we continuously see in this part of the world. And something must be done to change this approach. You see, over time, politicians have mastered the art of swift to talk. They are very quick to talk, but very insensitive to comply. Compliance is a very big deal. It's as if we have mastered the art of politicking and playing politics with the people. I don't know why government directives always take this turn. It has always been like this. Government will tell you they want to do things, and at the end of the day, they will blame it to bottlenecks and bureaucracies in government. Who creates the bottleneck? Is it not government? Who are the accomplices in the bureaucracies? The same government. So why not have efficiency in government by having an organized system, a system that functions, a system that works? Systems are not working because somebody somewhere is not doing his bidding, what is expected to do. And there is no what? There is no punishment for this kind of action. And that is why it has lingered for too long. And no one is doing anything in respect to that. Look at the issue of policy of the federal government to intervene. The intervention in terms of agricultural produce to be imported last year. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made the call in a joint meeting with other stakeholders in order to cushion the effect of food scarcity. And it was supposed to be an immediate action. You can imagine a federal government principles, policies that failed because of non-compliance and bureaucracies. The same thing has affected this local government autonomy. Ever since the court case, the very popular court pronouncement of the Supreme Court that granted autonomy to local government, we have had series of back and forth. Till date, we've not been able to nip it or get to the nitty-gritty of the direction of that policy. Till date, a lot of states are yet to conduct their elections. One of these states is Lagos State and so many other states. And part of the procedure is that all states, all local governments in Nigeria must have conducted their what? Their local government elections. Now, who is enforcing? Who is ensuring that there is compliance? It is one thing to make this very beautiful pronouncement, judgment of the Supreme Court. Yes, kudos to the federal government. But what is the system? What is the system doing about this? What is
Patriot
government doing?
Desmond, it's in this question of compliance that a lot of people are suggesting that maybe the workers in these states, about 20 states that are yet to start receiving the 70,000 naira minimum wage, could decide to embark on a nationwide strike backed by the NLC. However, the question also remains as to whether or not this strike will yield any positive outcome with regards to the implementation of this new minimum wage, which is no longer new because it has been implemented by a certain number of states.
Calling for strike is quite not progressive. It is counterproductive. For me, it is not the next call for action. It shouldn't be next call for action. Just like we have seen, government has been reminded of their duty of providing what they call governance. And some people have made this call, not to protest, not to strike. Some, it could be to what was done by Omosaye, a lady, NYSC, this 30-day rant, this popular 30 days rant that was embarked on by the Nigerian youth. You saw how it yielded a tremendous acceleration of action from the NYSC. The NYSC, for a very long time, that the government has approved 77,000 as their minimum take home. It was not implemented until there was rant, just a rant, not a breakdown of order, not a protest, not a striking, just a call. So I think, for me, we need to look for more creative, more productive way of ensuring compliance on the part of government, not necessarily going for strike. This will eat up the polity. Now, the people who want to go for this strike are still the same part of government. The people who will accelerate action is still government. So why not have a kind of arrangement where the people, the civil servants, the executives, and the professionals can have a round table discussion to identify what could be the problems. Then number two, jointly provides accelerated solutions to some of the identified problems. For me, that would be a better arrangement rather than first going for strike. Then later, at the end of the day, you still have the leadership of NLC invited for a round table discussion. Why not start with a discussion rather than going for strike? Since it is we. When I say we, I'm talking about it's still part of the system that wants to go for strike. Why not have an overall committee or interactive roundtable discussion with the entire system? I'm talking about the employee of government and the employer in government.
Patriot Desmond, you had earlier mentioned the issue of implementation and also, accountability, that who checkmates these governors and who ensures that they abide by the rules of the Constitution or even the Supreme Court ruling in this case, which has granted these local government councils across the country financial and administrative autonomy. Who do you think is saddled with the responsibility of taking care of this? Because it appears that the governors have decided to outrightly flout the ruling of the Supreme Court by making up excuses endlessly to this effect.
Who is responsible? The Supreme Court is responsible. Who is responsible? The federal government of the country is responsible to ensure compliance. It was the idea. It was a sole idea of the president that there has to be local government autonomy, which was pushed by the Attorney General of the Federation, Fagbemi, and we were jubilant. We're jubilating at this very beautiful pronouncement of the Supreme Court. For me, it looks more like a politics. It looks more like political kind of arrangement or a political kind of gimmicks being played by the federal government. Because let me tell you, federal government releases allocation every month. There is what they call FEC, Federal Executive Council. Before money is being distributed to states. FEC has to sit and discuss about priority projects, which means there is always this window, there is always this opportunity for the executives of government to meet and discuss about the direction of the country. Now, if as at now, we are talking about the government of APC, the government led by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, not finding its way to ensure compliance, then it is purely political. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu government should do more than just lip services to the country by ensuring that they comply and they lobbied, they interact. If Asiwaju wants to ensure there is compliance, he will definitely find its way to ensure that government, nobody can hold government ransom. No state governor can hold the federal government ransom. You saw what you can see the bit of the power of the presidency with what happened in Rivers State. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu truncated the government of Rivers State without second thoughts. That is to tell you how powerful the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria can be. So, whose responsibility is it to ensure compliance? It is the same responsibility of the initiator of this idea, which is what? The federal government, heavily led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Supreme Court Judge Kekereko.
Now, Patriot Desmond, in moving on away from this issue to another pressing issue that has left a lot of tears in the eyes of Nigerians, is a sad occurrence that predates even this year for 2 successive years in a row now. Some say it is in quest of land grabbing. The governor has called it a genocide in Plateau State, where in Basa and Bokkos local government areas, we hear now that the death toll has crossed over 56 persons. We saw the visit of the NSA yesterday. The Arewa Consultative Forum is calling for a declaration of a state of emergency in Plateau State. What are your thoughts in the wake of this recurrent Plateau killings?
There's no civil war in Plateau State, but economic conflicts. The type of conflict, after careful research, may have some coloration of ethnics, religious, but that is not the truth. The true reflection of the conflict in Plateau State over the years is economical. Don't forget that Plateau State is one of the densely rich states in terms of natural resources. Among these many natural resources is gold. Ever since exploration has been taking place in Plateau State, there have been series of conflicts orchestrated by the beneficiaries of this exploration. Some go as far as importing bandits to come and create havoc, to unleash havoc, mayhem, in order to foster their exploitative or exploration tendencies. We need to get it straight and we need to get it clear. We are looking at a Nigeria system where we have financed politics, we have financed elections, we have financed political activities with illegal money for mining, with money from illegal mining, from resources from criminality. And that is why you may not get to the roots of these problems in Plateau State. Plateau State have had serious fair share of what they call clashes between the so-called herders and the farmers, invaders and the aboriginals. These are just politics. These are mere politics. Government should call a spade spade. Government should be sincere to the people. It is quite absurd. It is unacceptable It is playing on our intelligence with the kind of crisis that is going on. Same thing happened in Zamfara State, in northwest of this country. Find out most of the communities in Nigeria where you have had clashes between herders and farmers, invaders, and the owners of the land has always, if you investigate very well, you always find out that these communities have some precious stones, have some precious gifts, some natural resources that cost billions of dollars. That is the main issue. It is economical. Go and investigate these lands that have caused conflict in Nigeria, whether in the south, in the northwest, in the north central, in the northeast. It has always been economic interest.
Now, Patriot Desmond, let's talk about the calls made by the Arewa Consultative Forum for the president to declare a state of emergency in Plateau State. Now, following what happened in River State with the state of emergency declaration and the suspension of the governor, would we see a replication of that happening should, in case, the president decides to adopt the advice or suggestions of the ACF? Would Governor Caleb Mutfwang be suspended for the duration of the state of emergency?
So, as Nigeria turned to a banana republic where we do things without law, even what happened in River State, I see that it conflicts with some provisions of our constitution. Yes, while the government have the sole responsibility to ensure the security and safety of lives, and also based on intelligence, there is no justification at any point to declare state of emergency. Do you know the implication beyond politics, interest, beyond the political solution that state of emergency brings to any state in Nigeria? Do you know the economic implication? The economic implication is that instead of development, it will be causing underdevelopment to those states. I'm telling you, no states where you have state of emergency attracts direct investors. The essence of governance is to woo investors. The essence of having democracy or having normalcy, it is not just government for the sake of governance, but governance for the sake of development and growth. So the call by Arewa Consultative Forum is, for me, is not logical. It is not logical because we've had series of clashes in different parts of Nigeria. There have been series of what? Clashes. Just recently, there was clash in Uromi, in Edo State. There have been series of strike in Kaduna State. There have been unending crisis in Zamfara State. Of recent, we've had series of conflicts in even some communities in the north. So, are we now going to declare state of emergency in all these states? Doesn't make sense. Just the mistake that was made by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to declare state of emergency in River State should look into. There has to be some level of responsiveness. Government must be responsible. We need to, while you have declared state of emergency, what actions are we going to take to ensure that normalcy is being restored to this state that will declare state of emergency? For me, I have not seen anything in that line or in that regard, which means the state of emergency in River State is just a political statement.
Now coming back to Plateau State, Honorable Desmond.
Of installation of unity or peace in the state.
Now coming back to Plateau State, the question is, what can be done to avert this recurrent killing?
Simple. Bito. First of all, the Office of the National Security Advisor, the National Intelligence Agency, the Office of the IG of Police, the Office of the Boss of SSS, State Security Service, SSS, and the Office of the CG of Civil Defense they have to deploy all their intelligence, because the crisis you're having in this state are economical. Check it. No this and no peace. There is nothing like others. Nothing like there is no originality in that statement all the time. You and I know, based on available investigation. I did a course in the university for 4 years to study conflict resolution and the causes of conflict, and I was told by experts and based on research, go and find out the kind of crisis you're having in these areas. They are not religious, they are not ethnic, they are economical, with the intonation to dissuade the people, to deceive the Nigerian gullible people that it is others. It is economical. There are those who are involved in gold mining. There are those who are involved in exploration of lithium. These natural resources, investigate them. When you investigate them, you will be able to know why they have continuously sponsored these organized attacks. It is organized attacks on innocent lives and putting the blames on Fulani elders. Yes, we understood that there are some pastoralistic beings that have been invaded, that have invaded our land. There are some pastorals that have come in from Chad, from Niger. Yes, why there is a place for them. The greater good is for you to understand that there are independent Nigerians. There are some people in Nigeria and outside Nigeria that are interested in the economic prosperity of this land and would do everything humanly possible to continue to have hold of those areas and land for their own personal aggrandizement and selfish interests.
Now, Patriot, let me just read out certain infos with regards to these attacks in Bokkos and the number of villages that had been attacked and the individuals who had died there. Now, so far, about 52 bodies were recovered in various villages, including 4 in Piakmal, 11 in Rui, 36 in Hurti, 4 in Mongona, and 1 in Dafo. Now, of course, Brigadier General Gadji Shipi, retired, who is the acting coordinator of Operation Rainbow and the special advisor to Governor Caleb Mutfwang on security, had confirmed that several suspects had been arrested in connection with the attacks, which he said was unprovoked. Now, the interesting thing here is that somebody of this caliber within the security sphere of Plateau State will declare that the attacks were unprovoked. Yet you say that the attacks were somewhat economically motivated due to the rich, deposits of natural minerals and resources within that area. Where should we tilt towards, and who should we believe? Do you really believe that these attacks were unprovoked?
There have always been this cover-up by governments. Over the years, even the era of President Muhammadu Buhari, we always have issues of these clashes, and the next thing the president will tell us is that some people have been arrested, investigation is ongoing, and perpetrators will be brought to justice. And we've not seen justice. See, you will never get that justice because these people know what they are doing. It is not for the interest of the people. It is just to work on the side of the Nigerian people. When you see this kind of statement by security agencies, head of security agencies, it's just for the necessity of it at that moment to create some level of calm or to give the people an opium. These statements are naturally meant to give opium, which has nothing to do with the facts. Government have these facts. This criminality that is going on in the northwest, north central, it has happened before in the south. It is economical, and only federal government and state government can investigate this and bring perpetrator to justice. But why it will be difficult is because some of these perpetrators are the sponsors of political parties. They installed presidency across Africa. They installed state governors. They installed some member of House of Representatives and Senate. So it will always be very difficult to bring this caliber of people into justice. The NIA, the NSA will know better. There have been organized crime going on, coordinated crime going on in Nigeria for too long, and nobody is ready to take responsibility. We have heard the chief of defense staff has made some of these claims. Are we now saying that Nigeria is ungovernable? Or is that the impression you're trying to create by these incessant killings of innocent lives over years? Are you saying that the security agency cannot investigate and restore peace to Nigeria? Effort has been ongoing to restore peace to Plateau State for over 15 years. Until date, we've not been able to have that peace we're calling for. No, Plateau State is known as one of the tourist destinations. But because of this exploitation and organized crime, that place is now becoming like a desert. Now, Shijoke and Bito, does it make sense to anybody that some group of people in Nigeria will want to fight over mere land? What are you doing with land in Nigeria? Have you traveled from Abuja to Plateau State before? Have you seen shallow land? Have you seen fallow lands? Valleys? Have you seen land everywhere that is not meant to achieve anything in the next 100 years? What are you doing with land? The kind of land we have in Nigeria, though might not be massive like USA, but we cannot use this land till thy kingdom come. Does it make sense that people are fighting over land? People are not fighting over land. People are only fighting about the resources. And who are those fighting about the resources? Those who are beneficial. And how many poor men or how many everyday Nigerian is involved in this exploration of gold? How many of everyday Nigerian is exploring lithium? How many of these farmers and this Fulani, in short, how many of these Fulani, the so-called Fulani elders, that are involved in digging of the gold?
Well, it may seem that all of these explorations are left for the latest portion of the society.
Thank you so much. So if anybody tells you that land, what is land? Chidoke, do you know how many land that you have seen that is not, even in that city?
Desmond, before we move on to other matters and away from Plateau State, I want you to react to the comments made by the National Security Advisor, Malam Nur Ribadu, when he mentioned that security in Nigeria has improved by over 90% since the inception of this administration. Is this something you agree with?
That is true. Security has drastically improved in Nigeria. So some of these crises you see, they are not a security threat because they are organized. These people know them. These people, NSA, NIA, with the level of intelligence, they know these people. The only problem they have is to nab these people because of interest. Someone has said it before, that if criminality lasts longer 24 hours in Nigeria, government have hand in it. We are not too many. Yes, our policies, our government might be changing. Our ideology of government might be changing, but Nigeria is still a social entity. Nigeria is still a communist settings where we know ourselves. We have rich traditions. We have rich culture. We have rich heritage of what? Being our borders keepers. Nigeria is known for that. If you look at our value system, Nigerians always got the back of other Nigerians, irrespective of their color. But because of this economic interest and wanting love of money, love of affluence, by some of these elites have created conflicts using different vices. They've come to use religion. Who conflict over religion in Nigeria? They've come to use ethnicity. They've come to use politics. It is the elite I'm calling on this morning. If there won't be peace in Nigeria, it has to be something that will come voluntarily from the elites. We need the elites, those who are involved in these organized crimes, exploration of gold, mineral resources, and drug, to please shed their sword and forget that money does not give you happiness all the time. You might get all this money in this world and still not be happy. Why that may just be a call. The truth of the matter is that the federal government needs to provide security at all costs. Government should understand that the only way there will be prosperity, shared prosperity, is when you bring these perpetrators to book.
Well said, Patriot Desmond. Let's move on to another issue in the news.
We may not achieve any headways.
Well, in moving on, today is the World Health Day, and whilst the world commemorates the occasion, Nigeria continues to grapple with several issues targeting the health sector, one being funding, the other being ongoing outbreaks. There's a Lassa fever outbreak, but more pressingly is a meningitis outbreak that has claimed the life of over 156 people, with cases reported in 23 states. There have been calls for massive vaccination, but it's also coming at a time when vaccines are receiving criticisms across the world for also having some effects on the lives of people. How do we adjudge this conversation?
First of all, as a scholar, I want you to understand that part of the problem is governance. Every country that have bad leaders or undergoverned or not properly governed always result in having outbreaks, disease outbreaks and all that. It's part of governance. And that's why you see that most of the countries of the world where you have high number of people going through this sickness, disease, and always in need of aids are in Africa because of bad leadership and to some extent and exploitation by these superpowers on the other hand. But bad governance is responsible for poor health. So as we look at World Health Day, we need to start looking at providing governance and trying to ensure that it's efficiency. We need to improve. One of the ways to reduce outbreaks of diseases in the world is to improve on delivery of governance to the people. Once there is increased dividend of democracy to the people, we'll be having less conversation around outbreaks. Today, I've read about 156 people have died from meningitis. What is that? A sickness caused by heat. Serious heat. Enugu State and Lagos State has been mentioned. And this has to do with planning along your population. We need to understand the importance of urban planning and migration. The reason why a lot of people will migrate from the rural community to the urban community is because of what? Lack of access to basic life amenities and survival. So if government heads in West Africa and Africa as a whole can prioritize leadership and governance and ensuring that there is what they call parallel development across the region, we'll start decongesting the cities. It is still lack of responsiveness by governments. Now, why that call for improved governance in Africa will solve this problem on one hand. The other hand is that we need to create more funding for research. We are countries, we are a sovereign nation. We have all it takes for us to start developing our own vaccines. We need to start looking at developing our local content in order to solve some of this problem. One of the hallmarks of every government is to provide security. And part of the security is not just conventional. Part of security is to ensure that you work with every other aspect of life sector to ensure that there is low number of sick people, while you also work on ensuring that there is economic prosperity for the people. This is how to win the war. Not just putting budget for crisis, no, but governance. It is a long-time goal. It's not an intervention approach. What we have had in this part of the world is intervention. Intervention when there is an outbreak. No, we should run away from intervention and having what they call a long-time planning to ensure that we curb some of the factors responsible for these outbreaks.
Well, Patriot Desmond, most of these cases that we hear about 156 deaths were mostly in rural communities or rural areas where primary health care service delivery is very, very low. In keeping with this issue and also in ensuring that, people have access to good and quality health care, what measures do you think the government, especially the Federal Ministry of Health, can take in ensuring that this issue is forestalled going forward?
On paper, government has taken all the steps. There is no step that has not been suggested to government.
And in action?
They have taken all. The only thing they've not taken is serious. They have not taken seriously is the issue of ensuring that there is efficiency, implementation, fight corruption. Do you know there are a lot of hospitals in this country that do not even have best sheets? I visited Okitipupa Special Hospital. I was at Okitipupa. As I speak to you, I'm calling from Okitipupa. I visited their hospital and I find out that the entire hospital does not have best sheets. And while speaking with the matron at Gofure, I was told that the board usually budgets money for these things and they still take it. They will come back and pressure the CMD to divert the money for other things, which means some of these health care centers in rural communities, the reason why a lot of people die in these rural communities is because they are just a glorified structure without facilities and without staff that will attend to people. One thing is to have this in paper. The Minister of Health needs to do a tour. He needs to try as much as possible to do a tour or set up a committee to do a tour and give him a report to check what has happened in our hospitals. We've had the issues of general hospitals giving people food that is not nutrition rich food. I saw a case in Ekpe where they called out Ekpe General Hospital for serving patients poison instead of food. So these are some of the little things that leadership helps you solve. Leadership is beyond paper.
Could you clarify that statement? You said that hospitals...
In Ekpe is on social media. Yeah. Go to the social media. It trends on social media. I'm from Lagos State, so I belong to different blogs.
Yeah.
So I saw it. They display the food. A food that looks more or less like a poison. It looks like a poison. It looks like
not suitable for consumption.
Not even. If you look at the plates, if you see, it is awful.
Well, in moving past this issue, as we have a little less than 10 minutes to wrap up, Let's revisit one of the growing concerns over a planned protest which was supposed to take place today, as we have the Take It Back movement insisting on a protest against the Cybercrime Act and the emergency rule. The police and organizers have differed on their position on this protest. Let's get your thoughts on this development.
Well, I've always maintained that I'm not a fan of protests. The reason is because if you look at history of protest in Nigeria, it usually leaves us with a sorrow tale. There's always blood and sorrow at the end of every protest. And sincerely speaking, after my investigation, I've realized that this protest has not heed much or desired results. And that is why we need to look for more creative and more innovative way. And that will do. Instead of protest, why not have what they call advocacy? Why not have advocacy? Why not have a synergy between the public and the agencies of government that is saddled with this responsibility? Why not have a round table discussion? Why not embark on advocacy in schools, in the market? Why not amplify the voices of young people, women, old and young?
But at the start of the program, Patriot Desmond, at the start of the program, you were recommending an online form of protest, the hashtag 30 days rant. Whilst protest is also provided for constitutionally, it may seem as though you're not so much in support of fiscal process. Do you support online protest?
It is not about the wrong. I'm not against protest, not because it is wrong. In short, Nigerians have the constitutional backing, laws, the rights to protest. But what I'm saying is not on the basis of illegality. It's on the basis of management.
What is illegal about the Desmond? What is illegal about the Take It Back movement?
Do not jeopardize government. Jeopardize protest.
Desmond, before you go too far, I just want you to clarify what is wrong with the Take It Back movement. What is illegal about the Take It Back movement? Hello, Patriot. Patriot Desmond, are you still with us on the line? Well, it may seem that connection is having a little bit of a glitch, but I think he was trying to raise a point about the illegality
which I find quite surprising, because at the start of the show, he commended the hashtag 30 days rants and talked about how it expedited the payments of the 77,000 monthly stipends for core members. I don't know if Patriot Desmond has an issue with online protests versus physical protests.
Well, it would have been very, very appropriate for him to clarify that before we wrap up the conversation on the program. But hopefully, if he can rejoin in just a moment.
Yes.
All right, Patriot, carry on, please.
Yes. What I'm trying to say is that protest is a constitutional right of citizens. But because if you look at the way it's being managed in this country by all the actors, both the protesters and the government that were supposed to provide security, I have seen a first-hand case where government are the first to unleash terror on protesters, leading to what? Chaos at the end of the day. Meanwhile, it's the same government that was supposed to provide security to protesters. So somewhere, somehow, there is always this jeopardy. And that is my single reason why I've always looked at creative and innovative way to protest against bad government in Nigeria. For me, I am in full support of online protest and other creative means of protesting.
But you're not in support of individuals hitting the streets?
Yes, only if government can provide security, and government will not provide security.
All right, a fine place to leave it there, Patriot Desmond. We thank you for clarifying that issue, but hopefully we will revisit it again next time when you join the program. President of the Nigerian Nexus, Patriot Desmond Patriot Fowobi It's been a pleasure, and we wish you the very best of your day.
Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.